We're going to take a look at the imagery in Shakespeare's Sonnet 60 right now as a way of learning what imagery really is and being able to synthesize our own. Make sure you keep an eye out for the imagery in the poem. Imagery being using consistent ideas to describe something, like making a prolonged comparison between two things that may not exactly be the same. Remember that word choice is very deliberate. There aren't really any words you're going to see that were put there by accident. Everything has a purpose. So here's the sonnet. Shakespeare writes, "Like as the waves make towards the pebble's shore, so do our minutes hasten to their end. Each changing place with that which goes before, in sequent toil all forwards do contend. Nativity, once in the main of light, crawls to maturity, wherewith being crowned, crooked ellipses against his glory fight, and time that gave doth now his gift confound. Time doth transfix the flourish set on youth, and delves the parallels in beauty's brow, feeds on the rarity of nature's truth, and nothing stands but for his scythe to mow. And yet to times in hope my verse shall stand, praising thy worth, despite his cruel hand." Now in this poem, Shakespeare uses two real main kinds of imagery. First, he starts off talking about the sea. He uses the sea to represent the passage of time, like the waves hitting the shore, minutes in our lives go by. He uses double-sided phrasing, which is why I pointed out to make sure to pay attention to word choice. Because, as you can see, in around line 5 and 6, he talks about growing up and reaching maturity, where he uses the word crowned at the end of the sentence. Crowned can mean that you've reached a point of maturity where you're ready to take on the throne, so to speak. But also, when a wave reaches its full height and begins to curl downward, that refers to being crowned. So the word has a multifaceted use here that keeps the imagery going. He then shifts his focus to comparing time to the Grim Reaper, something that everyone is really familiar with, the idea of personified death. So to equate time to death is a very negative imagery for time, but I guess that's how Shakespeare sees it. He talks about how it feeds on the truth and youth of the world, and stands waiting to cut people down with its scythe. In this final couplet, though, the last two lines, Shakespeare hopes that despite time's intervention causing his death, he may live on using his poetry, because poetry is immune to dying because it's written down, lasting forever. So, we can see that Shakespeare really gets his point across about time using the imagery he shows very selectively. By comparing it to the Grim Reaper, a very negative image, it stands to reason that Shakespeare has problems with time. In terms of using imagery, the advantages are that it lets people it works on people's preconceived notions about things, like if you wanted to make them feel a certain way, you could call to mind something that you know makes people feel that way, and they already have the emotion there. You don't have to explicitly pry for it. Just keep in mind that tomorrow we're going to be using these types of things to make our own poetry, using imagery to make a point. So if you want to jot some ideas down and have them ready with you tomorrow, that'd be great. If not, I will see you guys in class tomorrow.